Yo, time for another edition of ACC Baseball Etc. As always, presented by Pitch Logic, the system used by players, coaches, scouts, and instructors at all levels of play, from youth leagues to the big leagues. The easy-to-use and affordable technology makes the platform accessible to every player at every level. All the metrics, all the features used at the highest level. You can go to pitchlogic.com for more information. I'm Daron Vaught. I am admittedly a bit exhausted. I just got in and got home this morning from a road trip with my radio men's basketball job with East Carolina. The Pirates played at SMU in Dallas, Texas last night. So I was doing some ACC scouting for future ACC member SMU. And of course, because we were already scheduled to get back to North Carolina at like 2 a.m. Of course, it's a game that went into overtime. So your
getaway days are
so your boy Danny Graves, as you know, is already about an hour and a half drive from Greenville, where I catch charter flights with the team. Got a hotel in Greenville, slept a handful of hours, and then drove back this morning. So we are actually a little bit more well rested than I could have been had I driven back and gotten home at like 5 a.m. So,
yeah, that was a smart idea. You don't want to be driving like that.
Maturity. I'm getting there finally.
I was wondering what was happening, because I've never been ready to go before you. And when you texted me that the link is coming, I'm like, all right, I was just going to say I'm ready to go. And I was just waiting. I'm like, gosh, I'm so ready, and he's not. Something's happening.
Something's up. It's fine. We're good. We're good though. I've got a little bit of an off day, although I say a little bit because here we are doing something.
Yeah, but we're just talking.
This is talking. I tell people all the time, man, I've been talking not my whole life, most of my life. So it's pretty simple here. So what we're going to do today, Gravy, is a quick preview of the games coming up this weekend, because we begin ACC conference play. And I was particularly interested to talk to you because of the pitching matchup that we get in, maybe the biggest series in all of college baseball this weekend, because the ACC starts conference play before every other conference. Mm-hmm. Duke at Wake Forest. And I'm gonna be there in Winston at the couch tomorrow for game one of that series. We get
lucky.
We get ace lefty Jonathan Santucci of the Blue Devils, who has not given up a run this season. The reigning pitcher of the week in the ACC, and he's gotten my vote each of the past 2 weeks. Well, on the other side, we get Josh Hartle. Like probably a top 5 pick, top 10 at least. Mm-hmm. These guys are both likely first rounders, and they're at the top of their games. And it's going to be interesting too, because we know the firepower that Wake Forest's lineup boasts. So we'll see if Santucci can finally be affected by a hitter or two. And on the other side, Duke just scored 28 runs in a midweek against App State this week. Like, they appear to have some firepower that we maybe were a little bit concerned they wouldn't have this season. General impressions on the weekend matchup, the Friday game one specifically. Go.
What do you say? Like, this is almost one of those series that this should be at the end of the season to determine who the best team in the ACC is, right? And that's no disrespect to any other teams, but the way that the season has started with Duke playing as well as they have been playing, scoring as many runs and pitching domination that they have against the number one team in the nation, it's like, what more can you ask for this early? This is the first ACC series that we're going to have our eyes on, and it's probably the best one. Maybe not the best one all year, because I'm sure there's going to be some good ones, but I don't think there's any bigger series in all of college baseball. And of course I'm biased because, we love the ACC and not those other conferences. But this is the one that people need to have their eyes on. And just for the fact that Josh Hartle and Jonathan Santucci are both pitching, forget about like their offenses for a second, right? I mean,
even though Nick Kurtz is always an option, right? And no one would ever blame you if you were watching specifically for Nick Kurtz of Wake Forest. No one would ever blame you for that. But you're right. Just with the starting pitching alone, it's must-see TV.
So it kind of reminds me of, and it's not to this stature yet, but it reminds me of the Rhett Lauder versus Skeens last year, Paul Skeens. Forget who else was on that team. Everybody watched that World Series game because Paul Skeens was pitching against Rhett Lauder. And it's almost kind of the same thing here. Again, no disrespect to the players. We all love Nicky Nukes. And just the fact that Jonathan Santucci and Josh Hartle, two of the best lefties in the country, probably, are facing each other.
Probably 2 and 3 behind Arkansas's Hagen Smith, right? I mean, I think that's safe to say.
Yeah.
Smith had the historic performance. He might be 1-1 if the draft was tomorrow. But it's, I mean, 2 of the top 3 left-handers,
right,
and 2, I think, definite first rounders.
Yeah, for sure. And to me, like as a pitcher, it doesn't matter who you've played to this point, so to speak. Like I get it. If you're playing like a junior college or Division II or Division III teams at this point of the year, just to get innings or games, whatever, that's different. But Santucci's thrown against Indiana, Northwestern, Akron. These are Division I teams. And if you have a bat in your hand, there's danger could happen. It doesn't matter how bad your team is. Like, you just never know. That's the great thing about this game of baseball. And Santucci just going out and dominating. And this is kind of what he started like last year, right, Daron? Like all the punch outs early in the year, and then he ends up having like 6 or 7 starts, and then he goes down.
Yeah.
Now this is even a more domination.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, again, the early returns on Santucci since the UCL injury is that he's stronger than ever. And he's coming off of a performance, again, that got him pitcher of the week in the ACC, where he had a career high in strikeouts with, I believe it was 14.
Yeah, 14. And with 82 pitches, by the way.
Yeah, just like got through 6 innings on 82 pitches and fanned 14. I mean, he's been lights out. Again, we all know what Josh Hartle is capable of. I mean, this is a dude who really projects to be. I mean, heck, when he came out of high school, a lot of evaluators, Gravy, had him as the top left-handed pitcher in that draft class. But he was so committed to going to Wake Forest and becoming a Demon Deacon and playing with that program, which I love, by the way, where we can get guys like that, especially within the ACC, not to mention within the college game. He was so committed that sort of scared teams away. And again, this is a dude who's been the guy for a while now. And it's big league pitcher, starting pitcher stuff, right? 5-pitch mix. He throws all of them well. It's just such a big time matchup. I'm pumped up for it.
It is. It doesn't even make sense. Like this matchup, watching both of these guys pitch, they're both like so deceptive too. And I think most lefties, you kind of say they have that deception, but like watching so much of Hartle last year, I didn't get to see a whole lot of Santucci obviously, but watching his mechanics and his delivery, they both like hide the ball, and then they have nasty stuff to come with it. So there's no wonder why hitters are struggling to hit off these guys. But man, I hope this is like a 1-0 game, and maybe the bullpens give it up. I hope neither one of these guys give up any runs.
Okay, so that brings me to my next point. The bullpens, granted, Wake Forest is still trying to figure theirs out, but the pieces are there, right? It's not like they don't have the talent. But Duke might have the best bullpen in the country.
Yeah. Well, Coach Pollard has done this year after year, how he can manipulate this bullpen and get guys to work in the right innings, and he's masterful at it. I don't even know what to say. Like, he throws these guys out in certain situations. That's the epitome of putting kids in positions to succeed only. And that's exactly what he's done. He's figured that out and he's mastered it.
And there are so many arms for the Blue Devils coming out of the pen. Like, it could be Fran O'Shell III. It could be James Talon, who's back and seemingly back into the mix. And those are the 2 preseason All-Americans, right?
Yeah.
Neither is their closer. Charlie Bielenson is pitching in otherworldly fashion to begin this
Hasn't given up a run either, right?
No, hasn't given up a hit to a right-handed batter. He's been phenomenal. I was sort of digging into some of the numbers yesterday in my prep for this game. Like the rate at which pitchers on both of these teams throws strikes and get swings and misses. You're right. It could very well be a 1-0 game, but then at the same time, you look at the offenses for both teams and it's like, okay, that doesn't really make sense either. So something's going to have to give, right? One of these pitchers is going to have to get touched up a little bit for the first time all year, or one of these lineups is going to have to get shut down for the first time all year.
Yeah. I would like both lineups to get shut down. I mean, selfishly, like pitchers, I love a pitching duel. I know people don't like pitching duels anymore, but I love that. Hopefully it's not like the complete opposite, how we're just expecting a low scoring game. And what if these 2 guys don't have any of their stuff and they go get bombed? That'd be so bad.
You can still have a good game if that's the case, right? Like just from a baseball perspective, but it would be a shame. Given the magnitude of this pitching matchup in particular with Friday in mind. And then we've got Saturday and Sunday to deal with, and those will be just as good. So
yeah. So you're calling tonight, but what about the next 2 days?
So tomorrow, Friday is game 1.
I mean tomorrow, yeah.
So
I don't even know what days it is anymore.
Yeah. I've got game 1, Santucci Hartle. And then I've got some basketball that I've got to attend to the rest of the weekend. So
that silly sport.
We're still in crossover mode, man.
I know March Madness is driving me crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Just let it be done so we can so it can be just hockey and baseball only.
Don't get me wrong. I will be excited when that is the case. I like the basketball work that I get. So we're mixing it. I do like sleep though. And shaving it down to 1 sport instead of 2 is going to allow me to get more of that.
Right.
So I'm it's all good. It's give and take. We'll take the good with the bad and appreciate it all. But I'm excited. If I was going to get one game of this series, the Friday game is the one I want. That's the one. So I'm excited to
that's the one you want to call. You can watch the other ones on TV.
For sure. Yeah, exactly. That is not the only ACC series we have happening this week. So we've got a few more. Boston College is at NC State. That's interesting to me. NC State is off to a good start. Really, and Runes and I talked about this earlier in the week. The whole ACC is off to a good start. And it's kind of exactly what you want to see, right? Like we've got BC at NC State, Notre Dame at Virginia Tech. Pitt at North Carolina is really intriguing, especially given the start that the Pitt Panthers are off to.
Dude, they're actually hitting.
Yeah. No, I find it so fascinating because it is a team that's constructed in such a different way compared to other ACC teams. And Runes and I alluded to it a little bit, but it's like mostly Pennsylvania guys. And a lot of them are lower level transfers who are playing up. Some of them, of course, are guys who have been with that program for multiple years now. And obviously Mike Bell is great at what he does. And we all have such admiration for him and respect for the job that he does. So it's kind of the time at which most ACC teams have what they would categorize as pretty good records. At this point, you start getting into interconference play and you find out, okay, where can we start stacking these guys against one another? And they play a team in North Carolina that's hitting really well, has taken some lumps pitching, but certainly the potential is there with in particular the younger guys. Folger Boaz has emerged as their Friday guy, their ace.
Yeah. Great name too, by the way.
Incredible. By the way, we owe the people an all name team episode. So Joe Healy, when he came on to some of the Jacksonville broadcasts with me, we had sort of workshopped the big board a little bit for an ACC all name team. And we had figured out, okay, he just needs to come on with us, and we're gonna name an all name team for the ACC. Yeah. So we owe the good people that episode. Stephen Schock's going to come in and do one with us similarly. That is breaking down the best walk up music in the conference.
Oh yes,
I knew you'd be a fan of that.
Yes,
So those are to come. So Pitt, North Carolina is in a series that interests me.
You know what?
Virginia let me just Miami.
Yes, I was just going to say, like, I know you look at Miami's record; they're 6-5, but they lost 2 or 3 to Florida, but they didn't play poorly. Florida is a great team. So a couple of their losses there, they didn't play so hot last night. They ended up coming back and winning that game against, I don't even know who it was. So I still think that, their offense, they can outmatch a lot of teams. Whether they can,
Stonehill, by the way, was the opponent. So
I knew it started with an S, but
yeah,
I never heard of Stonehill. I didn't know that was an actual college. So,
but it was the win for Miami, nonetheless.
Yeah.
And like you said, the Florida series was less about the wins and the losses, and more about like, okay, you played with the Gators. That's a team that could make it to Omaha. I think a lot of people would have in their predicted 8 that's going to be a team that goes to Omaha. And you played with them. The Sunday game kind of is a wash, right? Jack Kaggs threw up a gem, maybe his best starting pitching performance of his career to this point, and also was 3 of 5 from the plate and mashed, right? Like it's going to be difficult to beat the Gators when that's the case. So yeah, no, I mean, like Miami is kind of where you would expect them to be. And again, it's going to be so interesting to see how all these teams stack up in the ACC, because we joked before the season started, like it's easy for me and for you to like certain things about every team, right? And I get caught in it's what people criticize Dick Vitale of when he's talking about All-Americans. It's like there are only so many All-American slots. I get trapped into thinking, okay, every ACC team can be a regional team. And, we know they're not all going to make a regional. But I think it speaks to the depth of the league that they all could be. I genuinely, I sincerely believe that. And it's just going to be, what happens within the very, very thin margins down toward the bottom of the league that determines who's in and who's not. Because I think they're talent-wise, they're all capable.
Yeah, if they didn't have to beat up on each other throughout the season, I think it'd be easier to say, well, these guys are going to make it and these guys are going to make it. But yeah, that's the depth obviously is a thing. But with Miami, I feel like the 2 lefties that they have in the rotation on the weekend starters, Hernandez and Schlesinger, they've been outstanding so far this year. If they could get Gage Zeal a little more on track, and he's showing good signs here and there, but get him back to what they expected him to be, that could turn out to be their strength, even though they're mashing right now with Daniel Cuvée crushing,
Yeah.
So I wouldn't sleep on Miami. But then again, you look at Virginia, they hit 8 homers in one game recently, right? Like, was that yesterday or the day before?
Yeah. Well, and Virginia, and this goes back to Jacksonville, they're just like finding ways to win while they are still themselves figuring out a lot. But like that's I think most teams they have one piece that there is kind of a work in progress, whether it be Wake Forest's bullpen or what have you. With Virginia, they're still kind of toying around with a lineup. The rotation is close, I think, with Evan Blanco, Jack O'Connor, and I think Jay Woolfolk is cementing himself into that. but it's still sort of TBD in a lot of cases.
Right.
So like they're winning while having all of that going on. They're growing pains into whatever they're going to become ultimately as a team.
Yeah.
So that's a really interesting series to me. We've talked about Todd Interdonato and what he's done at Boston College. They've looked pretty good to start the season. They're at NC State. That'll be interesting. I'm pulling up the schedule. What else? Which one did I miss? Notre Dame and Virginia Tech. The news came out this morning. Virginia Tech's without Garrett Michelle, the freshman All-American from a season ago for the season. Broken hand, I think, is what it was. But so that's a pretty big hit for them.
Yeah.
But it's a team that's got, I can't remember who has said it. Maybe Aaron Fitt on the D1 Proper pod has been the one sort of stumping for this. He thinks Virginia Tech's like maybe the best infield group in the country, or one of them for sure. And it's true. I they're certainly in the conversation. So they've got plenty of backup, we'll say, to Michelle in the lineup. And
gosh, so when did he do that? Like, what do you have any idea? Like, was that in a game or was it a practice?
Yeah, it was. Let's see. On March 1st, I've got the release email here. On March 1st, sophomore first baseman Garrett Michelle sustained a badly broken wrist from a collision during the 7th inning against Stony Brook. He left the game. He has since undergone successful surgery to repair the wrist, and he's expected to make a full recovery, though this release was for the announcement that it's anticipated he'll miss the remainder of the season. So, again, it's a guy that 339, slugged 626, 11 homers, 45 driven in last year as a freshman for them. I mean, that's a pretty big – that's a guy who had all ACC outlook for this season at the first base position, and pretty big loss for them. But again, the Hokies they're deep. They've got plenty of other guys that can contribute. So
gosh, that's awful. I hate that, man.
Yeah, no, it's sort of the first, other than the preseason injury to North Carolina's ace Jake Knapp. It's sort of like the first big injury we've seen, which again, they're inevitable, but
right.
And when we're talking about these razor thin margins in terms of who's a regional team and who's not within the ACC, that's what a lot of it comes down to, is who can stay healthy. So it's just kind of the first obstacle for one of those teams that's hopeful to make an NCAA regional.
Yeah, a lot of it is you just hope that your pitching can stay more healthy than others, because you got guys in lineups that could hopefully cover for each other, but you lose an ace or you lose a top arm out of the bullpen, you're in trouble.
Yeah, no doubt. But Notre Dame and Virginia Tech, that is all to say that's another intriguing series for me that I'm looking forward to watching. It'll be really interesting to see the start of conference play this week. Other than the pitching matchups in Duke Wake Forest, is there one that stands out to you?
Other teams, or
sort of other games? What intrigues you about the opening weekend of ACC play?
Well, this isn't an ACC game, but Florida State, man, I just love what's happening with Florida State.
Yeah,
because Link Jarrett, we did the show with Link that one time, and man, he just makes you want to root for him even more. What they've been able to do, like their pitching, of course, is outstanding with those two guys, Arnold and Leiter at the top, just striking everybody out. But you look at their offense. I mean, they're leading the ACC, leading the ACC in batting average. I don't think I would love to know when they won their 10th game of the year last year. I mean, because they're 10-0 right now, and we know how terrible they were last year. Gosh, it's just what he's been able to do with them. Just such a quick turnaround. Again, regardless who you're playing, I know it's not ACC competition just yet, but you still got to go out there and perform. You still got to execute.
Yeah, so they're one of the teams that is going to wait another week to begin conference play. They've got New Orleans this weekend, and then they begin with Notre Dame. They host the Irish next weekend for their first conference series. And I'm going to pull up while we're thinking about it, and we have the technology to pull up last season. I'm going to pull up their schedule and see exactly when they won that 10th game, because I think it's a great point that you make. That's another team to be really, really excited about, right? Some of the others who are not quite into conference play yet. Georgia Tech hosts Youngstown State. Louisville hosts Northwestern. And let's see, there's one more. Clemson hosts UNC Greensboro. And Clemson, coming off of the series win against South Carolina, I mean, that's as big a statement as we've had in the ACC all season long to this point.
Yeah. It's amazing that I didn't realize that they played this early, this matchup, Clemson, South Carolina, but I love that they played this early because, it kind of gives Clemson, and same thing with Florida and Miami, it gives these teams kind of a gauge of where they're at and what they need to get going as they move into ACC play, into the conference play. And then they went and took care of business, which is nice.
All right. I'm seeing what I can do. I'm laboring the Florida State schedule. Here we go. All right. Now it's going to pull up for me. They are 11-0 after.
Okay. 11-0. They won yesterday.
They won. Yesterday, 19-3 over Florida Gulf Coast. Another home game against an in-state opponent that they typically see, but
still, you got to play.
Yeah, you got to play them. They're 7-0 at home, 11-0 overall. Now I'm going to switch it to last year's schedule and see when they. Let's see when they won their 10th and 11th games. Right. This could be fun. We're going to give it a second to load, obviously. But by the way, we do have Hall of Name. I've got a name for you, and it comes from inspiration from something that an ACC player did earlier this week.
Okay.
So we'll see. It's not, I don't believe, a former teammate of yours, although I had to go check because you guys played for the same team but did not overlap at one point. So Florida State last year started 6-0. Am I reading that right?
Really?
Yeah. Yep. Last year they started 6-0, a series sweep of James Madison. They beat Jacksonville on the road, and then they got 2 of 3 from TCU on the road.
Wow.
I had forgotten about that because at the time TCU was a top 10 team.
Yeah. Yep.
6, then 7, 8, 9, 10. They won their 10th game in extra innings against Pitt on their opening ACC weekend.
Okay, well then forget that I even said that. It's not 11. As impressive.
No, because it didn't happen until later. Once they got into ACC play is when the struggles started. Because they got swept consecutively. Well, they lost 2 of 3 to BC. They got swept by Virginia. Miami swept them. They lost 2 of 3 to Clemson. There were the 2 midweeks against Florida in the meantime. They got swept by NC State.
Ooh.
Lost a midweek to North Florida. Dropped 2 of 3 to Virginia Tech. Yeah, so once they got into ACC play, it was really tough for them to get a series.
Lights out.
2 of 3 to Notre Dame. They lost. Anyways, similar trajectory, which is not to say that they'll do the same thing this year. I hardly expect that. But
right.
All right, so that's the ACC weekend coming up. Shall we move on to Hall of Name? And actually, you've got like a name drop type story to give us, right? Weren't you hanging with like country music royalty in the past week?
I was. So you know that I was a little under the weather over the weekend, and so I made an appointment to see my doctor. And my doctor's been my physician for probably almost most of the time that I've been in San Antonio, but he's been doing it for decades. So he's like, whenever you want to come in, just come in. So I set this appointment up and I go in and we're just hanging out. He, does all my tests and all that stuff. So we're just hanging out, chatting. And then some dude walks just walks right into his office. And I'm like, somebody just walked in your office. So he's like, hey, come here. So he brings me in the office and he says, Danny, this is George. And I'm like, just like this, Daron, George Strait. I'm hanging out with George Strait in my doctor's office. And I was such a little fangirl. It was ridiculous. I was in such awe. He was asking me questions about, baseball and being in San Antonio, and he lives not too far from here and like all these things. And I'm like, what's happening right now? I actually said that. I'm like, what's happening right now? And so he's giggling at me, and the doctor's like, it's all right. He's probably in awe of you too. I'm like, no, I don't think so.
Okay, so hold on. I got to know though. Did George Strait know who you were?
No. Well, I don't think so. I mean, he didn't act like. He said, nice to meet you. So I don't think, no, he definitely didn't. George Strait.
So hold on. No. But I need to know like the dynamic of the introduction, right? Like your physician is like, hey, George, this is my patient, Danny. Did he feel the need to say, hey, this is Danny Graves, former big league pitcher?
So the introduction that you usually give me, it was that times 100. Like he told him everything that I've done. Miami career Hall of Fame, Reds Hall of Fame, saves and works for, all these different things that I do now. He told him everything about me. So come to find out. So after I hung out with him, we were like hanging out for 20 minutes, like literally just hanging out with George. And so I leave. I finally say, okay, just to get rid of the awkwardness, I'm going to go and let you guys just hang out. And so I leave and I go sit in the car and I'm shaking. So I texted my doctor. I'm like, I can't believe that you just let me hang out with George in your office. So then he calls me and I said, I think you need to check my blood pressure again because it's like through the roof now. I can't stop shaking. This is unbelievable. It was the coolest thing ever. So he says that he put on a video of me. He's like, watch this guy's curveball. And George said, I should have got his autograph for my grandson who plays baseball. And I'm like, George Strait said he should have got my autograph. Are you kidding? But so of course I'm in such awe. I was scared to ask him for a picture. I didn't get a picture taken. Yeah, it's awful.
Well, I mean, it's understandable. Like you're there for different reasons, right? You're seeing your doctor because you need to see your doctor for those reasons.
Yeah,
it's a little bit different than sort of just like running into him in public. That seems like I don't know. Like,
but see, this has become a habit of mine, Daron. That I did this with LeBron James in 2003, his rookie year. I did it with Michael Phelps 3 years ago at the College World Series, riding in an elevator with him. And then I do it with George Strait. Like, it's not that I'm scared. I'm just like, I don't know, just in shell shock. I don't know. I don't know why I can't just say, hey, nice to meet you. You mind if I have a picture? It's crazy.
Do you have a favorite George Strait song?
Love Without End, Amen.
Nice.
That's my favorite. That's my all-time favorite. I almost busted it out singing it to him too. But yeah, wouldn't have been good.
I think if I had to go with one, I can still make Cheyenne. That's a classic.
Yeah, that's a good one too. That's a good one too. And every time I hear George Strait song now or start listening to him, it makes me want to cry that I didn't get his autograph or get a picture with him or anything. But I think
he was playing it cool. I bet if you asked George Strait what his favorite Danny Graves at bat was, he's probably got you punching somebody out to close it out for the Reds and get a save at some point. Right? Like, I bet.
Yeah. Right. Well, here's another real quick thing. So as I was walking out, my doctor was doing something with like nitrous. I don't know what he was doing. I'm like, what do you do? What do you got going on right now? So the nurse said, oh, it's his new tattoo removal. So you want to get any of your tattoos removed? I said, no, I already got the one that had my ex-wife's name on. I got that removed, so I don't need any more removed. So if George Strait writes a song about a tattoo of an ex-wife being removed, that's about me. It had the perfect country music, country song to it.
Yeah, no, that would make for a good one.
Yeah.
God, you have a way of just like happening onto situations like that. It's incredible.
It's incredible, but I'm such a like sissy when it happens. Like I don't know what to do with myself.
Well, we can arrange. You've got the middleman as the physician here. If you ever really like wanted to just like get some hangs in with George Strait, I think he'd be up for it. I think.
He plays golf a lot, and I've already hinted to my doctor like we should go play golf. And so they were going to lunch that day, and I said, well, because I got to go back and see him in 2 weeks. I said, maybe you should tell George to come hang out and maybe we go to lunch again, maybe on like March 21st at 10:15 a.m. That's my next appointment. So maybe we could set that up. So he was just laughing about it. So who knows, man? Maybe George will show up. I don't know.
Yeah.
If he does,
I'm confident that'll happen for you. I am.
And I'm confident that I will get a picture the second I see him and then not have to worry about it the rest of the time.
All right. Speaking of Danny Graves, just like brushing shoulders with greatness constantly.
The king of country.
It's time for Hall of Name, the part of the show where we let Danny, the former big league and collegiate closer, close out the show by giving us a glimpse into his star-studded world and encounters with greats. But this is more specifically in the baseball sense, right? So I name a player. Yeah. It started as a former teammate. We have sort of deviated from that a little bit, and you go just word association, first thing that comes to mind. We've also started to incorporate baseball references stat head so that I can draw up player comparisons and matchups for your career. So this is fun for me to see if you, as you normally do, remember your encounters with these players. So Duke has a transfer in their infield named Ben Miller. I mentioned already the 28-run performance by the Blue Devils in their midweek game against App State. Ben Miller hit 2 home runs in the same inning in that game. One of them was a grand slam. One of them was a 3-run homer. He was 1 base runner away, Gravy, from pulling a Fernando Tatis. For that reason, I am offering up Fernando Tatis Sr., not to be confused with Junior, who is a current major leaguer. Fernando Tatis Sr. is the name I'm going to present to you. And again, you faced him.
Yeah, I gave up a homer. I know at least 1 homer I gave up to him.
Okay.
Right? Is that true?
1999 is the only possible choice there. But yes, you gave up 2 hits, 2 home runs. What do you remember about the one that you gave up?
The 1 hit that I gave up? Or what? You said I gave up 2 homers?
You did. He homered off of you twice in 1999, yes.
Was 1 a grand slam?
No.
I don't remember. I just know that he hit at least 1 home run. You say 2. I don't know where they were, though. I just remember that he I don't know if it was that year or the year before. He hit behind Mark McGwire. He was McGuire's protection, which for a young guy coming up, you're like, this guy's going to protect Mark McGwire? Well, yeah, he did. He put up some good numbers. He had some good years, but he was really good at third base too. I think he was kind of overlooked defensively. Does that say where the homers were hit?
Let's see. In the top of the 9th.
Oh, so that probably blew a save.
And in the top of the 9th. Yeah. So in July of 99 and in September of 99, you gave up home runs to him in the top of the 9th. Yeah. So it would have been, let's see. the way StatHead has it laid out, I think it means they were down, which makes sense because that's the situation you would have been in the ninth. So they were down by a run, and he hit a 2-run bomb off of you in the top of the ninth inning to give St. Louis the lead. Awesome. The other one tied it at 4 in the top of the ninth, another 2-run shot. So he is single-handedly responsible for 2 of your blown saves.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Clearly he loved facing me. Yeah. Oh man. I do remember him hitting those 2 grand slams in the same inning though. That was pretty ridiculous.
Pretty wild.
Yeah, dude.
Actually,
that was
look, we often when we do this, guys do not have successful lines against you for their career. Tatis was 4 of 9 with those 2 homers and 2 doubles. You struck him out twice. But
that's all we need to hear, dude.
You got him once. You got him twice.
I must have maybe I struck him out when it was like he was hurt and he just needed another at bat or something.
You struck him out. Actually, let's see. The first time you faced him, you got him strikeout swinging, and you got him looking the third time you ever faced him, and then it was trouble from that point on. Well, because even if it was an out, there's a line out here to center field.
Soft liner, maybe?
No. deep fly ball to center field, deep fly ball to right field. Like he could have had a few more bombs on you, it looks like.
Yeah. Like it always seemed like he had the longest bat too.
Yeah, he was one of those guys, right? Like he had, because he was sort of like stocky in nature. I don't know exactly his.
He's not as big as his son.
No, not at all, especially in height.
Yeah, like height wise.
Listed numbers 5'11", 185. So
yeah, that's stretching the height too. I don't even think he was that tall.
It felt like he was a little like squattier than that.
Yeah.
But it always felt like he had one of those like massive barrels that went way longer than, up to his hip or whatever.
Right. And I remember like thinking he had a long swing. Maybe that's why I stunk against him, because I'm like, his swing is so long, I can crush him. I can jam him inside. He'll never get to it. So clearly he got to it. And then me saying, no, he's not going to get me this time. I do it again. And he probably got me again. And you just have those guys that you just can't get them out.
Yeah. That's
I like those when you find the ones that I give it up to. There's no shame here. None.
Well, like I said, that's genuinely one of the very first ones. It's like, man, he kind of had your number. So we don't get to find that often. That makes me happy. All right. Well, that's Hall of Name. That'll do it for this edition of ACC Baseball, etc. As a reminder, when presented with the prompt, whether or not to subscribe or not, it is not a check yes or no scenario. All right. You check yes. You hit
I see what you did there. That's a George Strait reference. I see what you did there.
So subscribe, rate, review, all that fun stuff. It does great things for us and allows us to keep continuing doing goofy things like exploring Danny Graves's encounters with country music royalty at the doctor's office. So if you like hearing those things, do the things that I'm telling you and help the pod out, right? Appreciate that. Appreciate you guys as always. Have a great opening ACC weekend of baseball. Catch me on ACC and X as well as the whole series, right? Duke at Wake Forest. Why would you not watch that? My voice will happen to be associated with Game 1. Santucci.
Game 1's important.
It's important. To me, it's the biggest game in college baseball this weekend. So I and our friend Larry Sorensen, who will be the analyst with me on the call there, we would love to have you. 6 p.m. first pitch on Friday. 2 of the best left-handers in the country duking it out. Obviously, some really good bats in there as well. That is all I've got. Gravy, anything else for the people?
Have a great weekend.
There it is.
Maybe tag George Strait whenever you. I'm pathetic. I know it's terrible.
That's it. Cue up George Strait's greatest hits in honor of this edition of ACC Baseball Etc. Watch a lot of college baseball this weekend. Everybody be good. We will catch up with you with another episode beginning of next week to break it all down. Thanks for listening.